Assalamualaikum and good morning to our class members, Mr. Utaya and Mr. Pradeep. Today, I am here to present about introduction of professional ethics. Here, our group members, I myself, Nizam Hamid Rafiq Ali, Puan Nur Abidah binti Ayub, and Ahmad Sharifuddin bin Sarmin will present the topic in front of our lecturer, our beloved lecturer, Dr. Rosli bin Ahmad. It is regarding to introduction to professional ethics. Okay, class, first of all, the content overview of our presentation today will be introduction, foundation of resources, ethical practice, literature from developmental psychology. There will be two components under the literature of developmental psychology, component of moral behavior, and the rest model of moral behavior. The next, it will be the Code of Ethics, ACA Codes of Ethics, advantages and limitation of Codes of Ethics. And there will be a literature from philosophy. There will be literature from neuroscience. There will be research on professional ethics. There will be two parts of that. The scope of unit unethical practice and the impact of unethical practice. The next will be ethical and the law. There will be positive ethics and risk management and conclusion. Okay, class. What is professional ethics? Okay, professional ethics is the participation in counseling and psychotherapy is an effective intervention for relieving emotional distress, improving interpersonal relationships, and increasing general satisfaction with life. That was regarding Duncan 2010 and Lambert 2013, Seligman 1995. Okay, why we should have a relief? Because client will feel good when they relieve anything that they feel in their heart, and the burden will be lesser when they speak out to somebody they trusted. And the trusted person here will be the counselor. Okay. First of all, to prevent unethical and incompetent practice that risk harm requires more than publication of a code and section of unethical practitioner. Okay, the first one will be, it demands the profession sustains commitments and ethics education. It means here, all the counselors is well trained, and it also demand that the individual with the professional develop to understand of the factors that produce and maintain ethical and competent practice. It requires that the professional appreciate the philosophical rationale and moral values that undergird the ethical standards. Okay, the second one, it also demands that the individual professional develop an understanding of the factors that produce and maintain ethical and competent practice. And next, it will be core and require the professional appreciate the psychological, rational, and moral values and with the standards. Okay, next will be the foundation and the resource for the ethical practice. Okay, the first one, having sufficient knowledge, skill, judgment, and character to practice competently. Okay, here the counselors must qualify with the qualifying education, including supervised practice, so that one is fully knowledgeable and skilled. Okay, second thing is respecting the human's dignity and freedom of the client. Okay, here we as a counselor have to respect their dignity and freedom of the client. Okay, this requires counselors and therapists to pass a license examination and have supervised work experience, and nearly 90% of jurisdictions require continuing education to prove their knowledge and skill. Okay, the next is using the power inherent in the professional role responsibility. Here, in practice, however, determining the combination of the factors that render counseling most effective, most respectful of client, and most in keeping with the good reputation of the profession is more complicated. Okay, the next, acting in the way that promote public confidence in the profession. Okay, here we have to make the public trust on us with the good ethics. Counselors and therapists honors the dignity of the client and give freedom for their lives. Clients, they sometimes make choice contrary contrary to their own best interest. And the next will be placing the welfare of the client as the professional highest priority. Here, action that help individual clients are actions that the public does not understand. For example, professionals are often legally and ethically bound to maintain the confidentiality of the disclosure about a past crime if the person is an ongoing professional relationship, unless the client realize them from the obligation or a court orders disclosure. Okay, literature from the development psychology. Okay, the abundant literature on morality of the moral reasoning that helps clinicians understand professional ethics and ethical decision making as the subset of the broader category of morality and moral decision making. It places professional codes of conduct into the context of fair, decent, and responsibility human behavior and provide a framework for explaining what has gone wrong when misconduct occurs. Framework of conceptualizing the process of ethical decision making and give a view of psychology and social psychology of ethics. Okay, when a person faces a moral decision, what provokes him or her to behave more immorally or morally? Okay, here in this slide, component of moral behavior, a moral action that a moral action as any behavior that can affect the welfare of others. Okay, it's regarding REST 1994. Okay, here mental health professionals often raise these questions when they hear of a courageous or outrageous act by other professionals. Okay, moral sensitivity, the process of recognizing. Okay, first, moral sensitivity. Moral sensitivity, the process of recognizing the situation as one with implication for the welfare of others and others. It involves sensitivity to the cues that a context offers. It is moral dimension. It's regarding now as RANS 1994. In the situation just described, it is possible that a person could see this intruder trying to break the lock on the neighbor's door and think about nothing more than a burglar skill with the crowbar. Or the person might just feel grateful that the burglar chose someone else's home. This reaction indicates no assumption of responsibility to the intervene of behalf the neighbor and exclusive concern with one's welfare. The second one is moral judgment or reasoning. Okay, moral reasoning is the process of thinking through the alternatives once of the situation have been recognized as having moral dimensions. At first glance, moral reasoning sounds like a methodical, logical process, but typically takes place rapidly and without great deliberation. It has both an emotional and cognitive aspect. When a person sees a burglar at the neighbor's door, one must act quickly, so the process of the thinking about what actions would benefit the neighbor is completed in a second. Sometimes only one alternative comes to the mind: call the police. Okay, for the third one, moral motivation. Okay, once a person has evaluated the option of determine which is most moral than that, person must decide whether to act. For example, a counselor may have observed a colleague who has missing appointments, neglecting paperwork, and showing signs of intoxication at work. Okay, okay. The last one is moral character. Okay, moral character is the final component of the process in the REST models. Batten and Stanton, 1999, use the term of resoluteness to refer to this aspect of moral behavior. One must carry out the moral action to its conclusion. Doing so typically requires virtues such as compassion, integrity, and conscientiousness.
Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera to our beloved lecturer Dr. Rosli bin Ahmad and all my friends. Thanks to Mr. Nazir for the clear explanation just now. I'm Nur Abida binti Ayub, metric number 303201349. We continue this presentation. Okay, this code of ethics have a variety of names, but they all specific the standard of care and the rule of conduct for member, and they represent both the highest and lowest standard of practice expected for the practitioner. Okay, this code represents the official statements of the profession about what is expected of members, and all members are held accountable for action that violate the code. Promulgating a code of ethics is one way that a group of practitioners can establish its professional status. The purpose is to educate about constitute ethic practice, okay, to help to ensure accountability through enforcement of the standards. The third one is to protect the profession from the government by allowing uh, the profession to regulate itself and functioning more autonomously. Fourth, to promote stability within the profession by helping to control internal disagreement. And the last one is serve as a catalyst for improving practice. Okay, the American Counseling Association, ACA, is the first publishes its Code of Ethics in 1961 and have revised it 5 times. This is an overview of a 9 sections of the code and their general provision. The first one is section A, which is the counseling relationship. This section addresses important issues in forming, maintaining, and ending the counseling relationship. It is reduced guideline to help counselor keeps client welfare foremost. The second is section B about confidentiality and privacy. address the client rights to privacy of information shared during counseling season and off records. The third one is Section C about professional responsibility contains standard related to competence. It emphasizes the importance of advertising service and qualification in an accurate manner. Section D about relationship with other profession offer guideline for relationship with college, employer, employee, and consultee. This section highlight the importance of respecting and establishing good working relationship with professionals in related mental health profession. Section E is evaluation, assessment, and interpretation, includes standards on competence to select, use, and interpret assessment instruments. Section F is about supervising, training, and teaching represent guidelines for counselor, supervisor, trainer, and educator. Section G is about research and publication, describe research responsibilities, rights of research participants, and the reporting of research results. Section H about distance counseling, technology, and social media, present guidelines to assist counselor to best serve client using distance counseling, technology, and social media. And the last one is Section I, about resolving ethic issue, addressing the responsibility of counselor to know ethical and legal standards and explain procedure for resulting and reporting suspected ethical violation. For the individual practitioner, the major contribution of a code is the support it gives the professional faced with an ethical question. A prudent professionals always prefer the codes because it often reveals the responsible action and no further deliberation is necessary. This code represents the best judgment of one's fear about common problems and share professional values. The existence and enforcement of code of ethics also demonstrate that mental health professionals take seriously their responsibility to protect the public welfare. The lengthy process of obtaining input from members about revisions of the code and re-educating them about those changes keeps the code in the limelight so that members know its importance. The inclusion of statement of aspiration ethic also furnishes members with a definition of what their college consider the fundamental ethic value of profession. Could also have limitation. First, the member of the profession organization typically work with diverse population in a variety of settings and engage in different activities. This variability means that a code must be written broadly and its application to any one setting is limited. Codes, therefore, do not uniformly address cutting-edge issues such as professional use of social networking sites or their responsibility when a client operates motor vehicle while impaired. In addition, codes are developed with organizations that also have value and priorities so that resulting code documents sometimes represent what the board of directors can agree rather than ethic idea. Another point about limitation of a code of ethics, it can focus much attention on the minor issue of the profession that is distract professionals from the major question, such as the ethical responsibility to promote social justice. And the last one is code do not provide easy answer to complete the question. The third resource of making responsibility ethical judgment is the growing body of the literature that tied professional ethics to philosophers writing on ethics and explain the philosophical underpinning of the code. This scholarship defines the ethical principle, value, and theory that form the rationale for the standard in the code. In essence, this writing connects the code to the wisdom of the age and are greatest used in coping with the most difficult and confusing ethical dilemmas. The philosophical literature also clarified that value and riches underlying that action of responsibility professionals and highlight that ethical practice always require value judgment and the part of professional. Some scholarship make a strong argument for integration of moral philosophy into the ethic education of mental health professionals. Literature review from the neuroscience. The relationship between functioning of the brain and the individual moral judgment has been a recent topic of research, and it is finding help clarify the area of the brain that are activated during the process of moral judgment. The current research also offers some intriguing and controversial findings. It suggests that a moral functioning may be affected by change in the brain caused by early experience and support the deep connecting between emotional and moral judgment. This research also highlights the relationship between some form of brain damage and misbehavior, especially damage to prefrontal cortex. In similar fashion, this research is exploring the connecting between emotional reasoning and brain function when the people are dealing with a moral issue. For example, research study explore different in the brain activity when people deal with acts of ethic or mission failure to do right thing in contrast to act of ethical commission engaged in a clearly immoral act. There is even some research that suggests a moral functioning can be enhanced by surgical, electrical, or chemical intervention to the brain. This body of research is clearly in infancy, but finding thus for demonstrate that making moral judgment is not purely conscious process and that there may be an interactive between genetic, brain chemistry, emotion, and environment on moral and ethical behavior. Okay, that's all my presentation. I will pass the next slide to Mr. Sharifuddin to continue this presentation. Okay, thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good morning to our beloved lecturer, Dr. Rosli, and fellow friend. Thank you, Puan Abida, from my group member. I will continue the presentation and last part in the subtopic research on professional ethics. The professional literature that examines specific ethical issues such as the limits of confidentiality with children and ethical consideration in advertising professional service. Over the past 40 years, published material on ethics have increased dramatically. It's helpful for professionals trying to cope responsibility with emerging areas of practice where the code of less likely to offer specific guidelines for ethical conduct. This writing gives practitioners a sense of the dimension of the debate and the critical factor that influence expert view of the issue. The resources are also relatively free from the external pressure that often influence the development of ethic code. They usually encourage professionals to practice in the most responsible way possible. This lecture offers the counselor an opportunity to consult with the most knowledgeable and experienced scholar in the profession on a given ethic issue. Next, we discuss about the scope of unethical practice. We have 4 points in the scope of ethical practice. First is a financial cost of unethical practice. Ethics scholars have also researched the most common type of ethic offense and the practitioner characteristics associated with them. The findings was one about red flag issue and the circumstances under which others have fallen short. Specifically, researchers have studied the pattern of complaint to licensing board and professional associate the nature of malpractice suit filed against counselor and psychologists, and the self-report of professional in national survey. Second, we discuss about ethical misstep in day-to-day practice. Ethics scholars have also researched the most common type of ethic offense and practitioner characteristics associated with them. The findings one about the red flag issue. Second, ethical misstep in day-to-day practice. What I call because ethic complaints and malpractice claims do not provide data about unreported ethical violence. Researchers have surveyed mental health professionals about misconduct they have engaged in or observed. The most common international violence of ethics standards described in the research involve breach and confidentiality. Third, client threat of legal action. And fourth is ethical question in the day-to-day practice. Counselors and psychologists have been asked what kind of ethical dilemma they face in the work. The focus in this research is not violence, but on the ethical question they arise the ordinary course of event. They report that the most frequent dilemma concern confidentiality and its limit. Specifically, Pope and Wetters 1992 found that the sample lists the topic more than any others. The same pattern was evident in recent research by Cruz 2007, which is a sample of mental health counselor, and from Helbrook, Marinelli and Wall 2006 with a sample of rural psychologists. Next, we discuss about the impact of unethical practice. The most prominent violation must empirical evidence on the negative effect of specific violence in concentrate on sexual misconduct. Next slide, we discuss about ethics and the law. The law is the value the society agrees upon. The profession, the central value that its members have endorsed. Professional ethics put into operation those values in the way it defines the action professionals ought to take in relation to each other. Ethic codes are the standard adopted by national professional associations that govern the definition of ethical behavior for their members. Also referred to as a code of conduct, the lay of the penalty for misbehavior. Statutes that govern professional practice are enacted by state or federal legislation and case law is handed down by the state or federal court. When we talk about positive ethics and risk management, the single best way to avoid a malpractice suit of the discipline by a licensing board is to know and follow the Professional Code of Conduct. Bennett, Bricklin, Harris, Knapp, Van der Kriek, and Young-Green, 2006. About risk management, degenerate into viewing the client as an adversary who aiming to take advantage of a professional at the first misstep. And third, rule, law, and code must be fully understood to act responsibly, but they have the starting point of truly ethical action, not the end point. Next. As a conclusion, the final slide from me. Conclusion: acting ethically means being a competent has purpose, considering the client's welfare as predominant, using power responsibly, and conducting oneself so as to enhance the reputation of the profession. A counselor has four primary intellectual resources. First, the lecture from developmental psychology, which provide a framework for understanding the component of moral behavior. Second, the code of ethics of the professional association, which includes the standard one's colleague had set for the profession. In the third, the philosophical lecture, which help counselor understand the ethical principles and theories that underline professional code of conduct. Fourth, counselor can really rely on books and articles by their colleagues who are experts in professional ethics. Another way, individual professionals must take responsibility for their own action and use the commitment to ethical value to carry out the action. All about conclusion from group 1 for the topic introduction to professional ethics. That's all from my group for presentation today.